Let's go. You're now tuned in to the Finding Success Show, where we interview guests and uncover the keys to success in business and in life with your hosts, Justin Bozak, Abe Cavella, and Tom Zdanowicz.
All right, we're live in studio today with Len Zdanowicz. Possible relation to Tom Zdanowicz? I don't know. There's a last name thing there that
sounds familiar. Yeah.
The younger version.
You guys are a unique clan, right? I mean, all Zdanowiczes probably have to be related, right?
Yeah, well, there's not many of us in the world that aren't related. Come on, look at that name.
So Coach Len is the coach for Brick High, and he's been doing his thing for quite some time. So we appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Wanted to go over a couple different things. You know, we want to go in a little bit on the past and how you got to kind of where you're at now, and kind of end up with what's happening right now in the current environment of coaching and sports with COVID. So you want to start us off with I guess your start in football? Well,
that goes down back to like probably the early '80s in Pop Warner and Brick, and we grew up playing. Me and Tom and the family, everybody, all my brothers and sisters, very involved in sports from a young age. I mean, our parents kind of pushed us into that, and it was like we all wanted to do it anyway, so it was kind of fun for us. For me, playing high school football and then college football and then getting into coaching from there and everything, it led to getting my teaching job. So it's just been basically like a way of life for me. Took a couple of years off after high school, went to work in the city for a little bit, and basically wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. Didn't want to do it. So went back to school, back to college, played football, and just fell in love with coaching. And then from that point on, I've been doing it now. I think we're coming up on 23 years as a coach, assistant, and head coach. So it's just been it's been fun. And then it's been all different levels, from my son being 5 years old playing flag to high school kids, till all-star games. So there's just been a bunch of different things that I've been fortunate enough to be able to do in this profession.
So I'm going to jump in here since I might know you a little bit. So there's a point it seemed like in high school where I guess maybe the light turned on or something, where you all of a sudden took football extremely seriously. Maybe in the past it was more of just, hanging out with the guys. But what was that point that kind of changed your mindset?
Well, with the program that we were involved in at Brick, it's been a very successful program, playing for Coach Warren Wolf, who was the all-time winningest coach in the history of New Jersey football. And it was something that was basically, it was ingrained in us, for where we grew up. But when I was younger, I was kind of like, I got into some trouble when I was younger years in high school, middle school. I was just one of those kids that probably would have been medicated nowadays. And my mother never, the teachers had said that, people have recommended it. She never agreed to it at all. So I just kind of found my way. And then by the time, after my sophomore year, junior year, I really started taking it more seriously. And, getting into when you're playing varsity football, and, my junior year, I didn't play much at all. And then my senior year, going into my senior year, me and my teammates, we decided that we were going to work our butts off, because our junior year ended with a state championship loss to a real good football team. And we were totally blown out. And it was like a motivation, man, we want to get back here, and we don't want this feeling ever to happen again. And that's where I kind of really took it seriously. And then I took it seriously that year. I wound up being a two-way starter on our state championship team. And then after school, I'd always planned on going to work with my dad and doing union carpenter in New York City, and I did that. And after, I played in an all-star game my senior year. And then after that, I just kind of I really think I didn't reach my potential yet. So I kind of went back when I went to work, I was working every day, and every day I was driving home and wishing I was somewhere else. So it was just a matter of, I tell people nowadays, I was 20 years old. I was making $60,000 a year in construction in 1992. And I said, I want to dump this and go back to work. Go back to college. And I went back to school and played, and best decision I ever made. And I still joke about it. Probably about 5-6 years ago, I finally cracked $60,000 teaching, but it's a totally different, mindset. You basically, and I tell kids to this day that, if you're doing something that you don't like and you're working for a living, if you do something you love, then you don't have to work, So I tell them the goal in life is not to make money. The goal is to find something you love doing and then find a way to get paid for it. And that's what, I feel like I'm doing now.
Well, I think about like we talk about finding success, and everyone thinks, oh, that's just making millions of dollars, making $100,000, and there you are, right there, saying that right now, if you were a carpenter, you'd probably be making six figures, well above that.
Yeah, I probably would be that. I'd probably be divorced. I'd probably be drunk. I mean, that's just the way it was.
Happy,
I mean, there's a lot of guys that I have family members. We have family members the same way. That just you get into the wrong part of this, and you're in the city every day, and everything. If you're making money and you're in the city, there's things that entice you, and I just didn't want to be a part of that stuff and be around it. But I know I probably would have made a lot more money, but you never know what could happen, what your life would be like.
Yeah.
It's not finding stress, right? It's
finding
I remember success. I mean, there's two different things. And just like Tom said, it's not about money.
No, I remember my father leaving the city sometimes, and on a Friday, he was waiting from a general contractor to get a paycheck. And he would be in the office, and the guy wouldn't release the check till after 3 o'clock on a Friday because they didn't want you to cash it till it's like, and we'd have to wait till after 3 o'clock, and the work would be done months ago. And he's just sitting there, and after 3 o'clock, getting out of the city on a Friday is brutal. It's brutal. And we would try to always get out of there before 2. And, I just remember him coming into the car, just being upset. And, our dad, he didn't hold back. He was just like, this business stinks. And I'm sitting there listening to this going, I guess this is not fun, The money's great, but I guess it's a pain in the butt when you got to wait for it like this. And these guys basically have you out. They can do whatever they want to and hold back money from you because you're not going anywhere because you need to work for them to make money that's going to come in next week. So it's kind of like it's a bad spot. But I saw it early, and once I told my father I really wanted to go back to school, he was the happiest guy. He was more happy than me, So.
Well, yeah, to think about that, like what he went through, he used to get up at like 4:30, I think it was 4:45.
Yep.
The clock would go off. Yep. And he'd get on the road by 5:15 and get in the city by 6:15, 6:30. As long as he did that, he didn't hit the traffic. And Fridays, if you left by 1:45, you don't hit the traffic.
We'd get up early, we'd work through lunch and get out of there by 1. I mean,
it was clockwork.
Yep.
So, but what he had to go through to give us an opportunity to have this type of life. And I think that's probably why he was the most excited to hear that. So you're going to get an education. So let's talk about Willie P a little bit. William Patterson University, a pioneer.
Yep. William Patterson College when I was there.
Oh, college.
So that's how long ago it was.
Okay, all right. So you were a pioneer there. One thing I remember most about you, obviously you played football there. You guys were an awesome team. You guys were D3, but New Jersey, what was it? New Jersey what?
The NJAC, New Jersey Athletic Conference.
Probably one of the best conferences in division.
It was at the time. It was very good.
But one thing I remember most about you, I think were you named captain sophomore year or junior year?
I was captain my junior and senior year.
So right there, that tells me what type of leader you are. Because to elect a junior as a captain when there's seniors on the team, I mean, what do you have to say about like the teammates you played with, what they thought about you, and how you became a leader from there?
Well, I think the other part was I was a little older than a lot of the guys too, so it also helped. So I was a little bit older.
Mature guy.
Yeah. Well, again, I kind of like I made mistakes, and I already when you go back and you know what you want. It's different than having kids that come to college and try to find themselves. Sure. I knew what the real world was like, so I was like focused on my grades. I was an A student. I was 3.5 GPA, and I was never like that.
Just like
school.
in middle school, right?
Yeah, not like that in there at all. I mean, I was going to work in construction, so I didn't care what my grades were. Yeah. But that's the difference when you're focused on what you're doing and you know what you want. Then it's the work isn't. It's not work. It's just that you enjoy doing it, and that's what. My grades were really good in college, and just being around the guys, I was like one of the guys as far as working out. I had already done it. I come from a very good program, and I remember some of the guys I played with, and just some of the guys. I remember one specifically, my sophomore year. We started the season. I think we started off 0-3, and we had lost like 2 games by a point. And I remember just losing it on the team, like just losing it. Going, well, are you kidding me, guys? We got to do this. I still remember this phrase. I didn't lose 3 games in high school. And I remember saying it, and I remember a couple of the kids in my team going, Z, I didn't win 3 games in high school.
Oh, wow.
So then right there, I kind of realized that who I was talking to. Like I'm talking to kids that some of these kids know nothing but losing, and they accept it. And that's where they accepted it, and I was mad. I was upset. I was pissed, and I just never took losing well. And I was upset about it, and these guys were talking about where are we going. And I'm kind of like, well, it's going to be tough to change them. So let me just try to slowly talk to them about what it's like to win and what the feeling feels like. But when you've never won, it's tough to describe that to kids. And then when you see like, all right, well, the other teams, what you got coming back, and some of the kids they're just relish to the fact that we're not going to win, and it's just tough. And it's kind of like selfish in a way. And it's not a way that I would tell kids to do, but at points of my college career, I kind of played for myself. And I realized, all right, well, every time I'm going to go to a game, I'm going to go against a guy, and am I going to beat him or not? And we're at the end of the game, I'm going to know if he got the best of me and or I got the best of him. And that's kind of what I would measure myself on, because I couldn't look at the scoreboard because it really didn't mean anything to anybody else but me. So I would just go against the guy I went against and said, all right, well, if I get the better of him, and I'd say I had 9-2 this season, or I was 10-1, or I remember the guys that beat my butt. I remember getting my butt kicked and being like, whoa. And just that's how you got to find different ways to motivate yourself. And as far as being a leader there, it was pretty easy with some of the guys I've been around, because I was kind of the older guy. So it was very easy to try to get those guys to try to follow along with what my coach in college, Jerry Gallagher, who I still talk today, very influential in me in coaching and stuff. And I've been all in this offseason, I've been talking to him a lot. So he's a great guy that I look to as one of my mentors too.
Awesome. And I think, talking about Warren Wolf, obviously, and the mindset at Brick, I think we maybe lost 3 or 4 games in my career too when I was there. But there was always a saying that you're Brick, you're expected to win. And it lends back to what you're saying where, it's third quarter, it's fourth quarter, you may be down, you may be up. And we put the 4 sign up because if you're winning, you're expected to win. You're gonna bring it home. If you're losing, you're gonna do your best to win and take the lead. But so that mindset of expecting to win, it's very hard to get to that level, I think, in my opinion. So you have to change a culture in order to do that. So obviously, Brick, you learned that. What did you learn with Gallagher and Willie P, maybe on the other end of it, and how to change that mindset? So really, my question is the coaches. What did you take from each coach that you?
Well, I was very fortunate at Patterson. I had at high school, starting from high school. As far as you want to know from all my coaches, okay,
yeah, sure.
So from high school, having Coach Warren Wolf, who was just a legend in the state, and Coach Tim Osborne was my defensive line coach, who really became a real mentor for me in high school, and then going into my teaching ranks and coaching ranks, because he was a head coach when I was a head coach, and there was some stuff that we had talked about, and he became a real big mentor, and his loss and his passing was really tough. I remember exactly where I was. When somebody important to you passes, you just remember everything about it. And he was one of those guys that was just very influential. And every time I had an issue with coaching, I would call him. I mean, he'd be the guy I'd call. And he was very influential. Coach Philippone, another guy that was our offensive line coach, who still helps me out today on my staff. So these guys helped me out. And then after high school, getting into college, and Coach Gallagher was very great, very influential with a lot of things in life. And I still remember the things he taught me about football. It's just the 3. I gotta remember exactly what it is about football.
It was on the spot.
Yeah, no, it'll come back to me. But then also my defensive line coach, Steve Brown, who was, you want to talk about an imposing figure. This guy was about 6'4", 300 pounds. He had played at William Patterson, and he wound up playing in the NFL for a little bit. And he also was the dean of discipline at Patterson Eastside High School. And the movie Joe Clark, and he was the guy. He was the guy who was in charge of discipline there. And I don't know how you'd ever do anything wrong with this guy looking at you. And he was great. He would just have a way to motivate every single guy. He was real good at that. And that's where I learned a little bit about how to motivate different people, because he had different ways to do things, which was really, really good. And he's still up there today giving back. But just so many good people that I've worked with. And then, when I got into coaching, and I started coaching at Brick, I still remember, it is a great story to share. When my first time ever coaching a football game was the All-Star game in 1997 at Brick Township High School. I was coaching under Coach Wolf, and I was just starting for that season coming up. And it was the end of July, and we had the All-Shore Football Classic that a lot of kids play in. And that was my first time coaching. I was coaching defensive line. I was coaching with legendary shore coach Al Sainer. He was in charge of D-line, and I was supposed to help him. So we first get there, and Al, first practice, goes, "Are you ready to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, coach, yeah, I'm ready." So practice starts, and D-line comes over, and he goes, "All right, it's all yours." So I was like, okay. So right there, I was just thrown into the mix, and I took it off right there. And he goes, "All right, you're good. I'm going to walk around." And he just took off and left me. So I was like, it was trial by fire, but I was prepared. So it was fine. And then the still thing I remember about that is we had done, each one of us was in charge of something. I was in charge of the extra point block team for the team. And one thing I remember, and I heard stories about Coach Wolf, how he was on his coaches. And that's the key about why he's such a great coach, is it's how he was on his coaches. And Coach Osborne, Coach Gianella, who were very successful guys, Coach Philippone, we're all sitting there, and he goes, "Listen," they told me, "Listen, Coach is going to grill you about this extra point block team. You better have all the answers, or you'll never hear the end of it." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Believe me, you don't want to not have an answer." I'm like, okay. So I would go home. I studied. And then the next day after like the second practice, he goes, all right, we're going to do special teams tomorrow. Leonard, get up there and draw up the extra point block team. So I get up on the board in front of all these coaches who were guys that were my coaches, other guys from the shore. And I'm like, I'm a little nervous. And these guys, listen, I mean, they don't make it easy. They're up there and they're making faces at you. They're joking. they're just anything to get you to break. Crack. And they try to just get you to crack. And then the pressure of Coach Wolf sitting there looking at everything and just watching everything you're drawing. And then he starts rattling off questions. All right, what if they come out in this? What if they come out in this formation? What if they come out and do this? What if they come out in that? And I'm rattling off answers. I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. If they do this, coach. If they do that, we'll do this. And if they do this, we'll do that. And he's rattling the questions. And the guys over there are like, whoa, okay. Giving me the okay sign. And then all of a sudden, coach asks me a question. Like, well, what if the backup here comes in and he's lefty and everything has changed? What are you going to do? And they come out in this formation, and this guy's a quarterback, but he's a lefty now. And all of a sudden, he's not a righty. And I'm like, what the? Like, who the heck plans for this? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, coach, that's something that we couldn't prepare for because obviously I didn't get enough time during the week that I could prepare for everything. So right there, I'd probably go to you and ask if we need a timeout. And he was like, oh, okay. And like right there, like I just got him, like, and it was like, okay, Leonard, you can have a seat. And all those guys were sitting there giving the golf clap to me like this. And they said, you don't know what that did for you. That you'll never get grilled again. Right there, as a coach, you will never get grilled again by him because he knows right now that you're prepared. And I went on to coach with him for another, 10 to 12 years, and I never got it like that because he knew he would ask me questions, but he always knew I was prepared. But I've seen guys that would fold, and they would get it every day. And I'm like, holy moly, like this guy is relentless. But again, he said, I'm going to embarrass you in front of this office with all of us in here, but when we go out in the field, you don't want me to embarrass you in front of the kids. Because if the kids don't have confidence in here, they're not going to believe a thing you say. So I'm going to find out what type of coach you are in here because you can't make a mistake out there. Because if you say something wrong and it's not what we're doing, then the kids lose faith in you, then you're useless to me.
That's kind of
I was like, whoa. I mean, it's just he expects you to know your job. And if you don't, you're not going to be there and you're going to get embarrassed. So that's one thing I learned about Coach Wolf. And I try to do that with my coaches sometimes, trying to get them prepared. I don't go to the extent that Coach did. I just don't feel I can do that with guys. I'm just not that level. But my staff, I'm pretty fortunate to have a good staff that I work with me too.
So it's pretty much baptism by fire.
I'm telling you, you just better. It's just a matter of like you better know the first time you're grilled, and then from that point on, he's going to know that you're going to be prepared. Because if the first time I just graduated college. I was just ready to start. I didn't even graduate college yet. I was still doing my student teaching when I started coaching at Brick, and I was traveling every day back and forth, and I was still a student when I had my first coaching job at Brick before I started teaching. So, I mean, but I told you, I was older. So I was about 26 years old. So it bought me, I kind of liked the trial by fire, and I was able to, earn his confidence and earn his praise. And
we've met with other people, met with business owners, and we talk about the hiring process and having people on you. And it's a group effort and a team effort. Mm-hmm. And it goes down to the coaching you talked about. Like, because I played for a lot of those coaches you talked about, and they were an extension of Coach Wolf. And, they were just as good as him because they were essentially trial by fire of him. So what do you look for in coaches to be an extension of you? Because obviously you can't do it all on your own. Mm-hmm. So you need people that are well-versed in the mindset and the strategies that you have. So what do you look for in kind of the hiring process, but for coaches that are going to be successful under your program?
With the hiring process as a coach, I mean, for me as a high school coach, you're kind of limited to what you can bring in because of, the guys that work in the building. You're not going to get everybody jobs nowadays, but I'm very fortunate. We got a lot of guys that are alumni at Brick that do other things in their career, and they can come back and coach. And then I also have a great group of guys that teach in the building with me that, they all know, a lot of them been around Coach Wolf. They've been around the program. They know the expectations. Unfortunately, I mean, we're a high school football program. I have 17 coaches, and we only have 6 paid stipends, which means there's 10 guys that are volunteering. So I mean, they volunteer their time, and and they just love being around our kids. And our kids they're blue collar, hard nosed kids, so they like being around them. And these guys, when you're giving your own time, sometimes it's rough because their schedule is getting away in life and family. But I try to tell my guys, listen, I'm not gonna, I don't want to get on you a lot about things, but there's going to be certain things that I expect you to know, and I expect you to do these things. And some of my guys have been, I think they've kind of been like, in the point of kids not knowing what to do, and they've felt what it feels like. And I'm like, you don't want to feel like that, And then I've talked to the guys and try to get guys prepared. But fortunately, I got great coaches that work for me. I got guys that do their work that are really into it, and that's just the key. I mean, having guys around you that love football as much as you is very important, because during the season, I mean, there's a lot of time that we put in that nobody ever sees, and you're sitting home and you got Saturday and Sunday, you're game planning the whole day. I'm locked upstairs in my office just looking at film, and my wife has to be very understanding, and I'm fortunate that she is. I mean, she kind of lets me do what I need to do with it, and and then in the off season, it's like, I got to do this. Okay, I got to do this. I got to build up my points. So when the season comes, I can be absent, because, we have a sign in our coach's office that says, we interrupt this marriage to bring you football season. And it's kind of like fitting. We had that with Coach Wolfer, and we keep it in there. It's just funny because if you don't have a good wife that backs you up, you can't do this. I mean, I've been around guys that haven't had that, and all they're worried about is what's when I get home. So it can't make you be as good as you are. You guys know in this business where if you have a spouse that's not behind you, going to all these meetings, going to a sales call, going to meet a client, you're not going to be successful. Somebody has to back you up. Or if you're by yourself, it's easy. But if you don't have a partner that's behind you, you cannot be successful.
I mean, what I appreciate about you, and shout out to Brian Mack he helped me with some paperwork in my house this weekend.
My right-hand man.
Yep. And he's almost a savant on the defensive side. Pretty amazing
Unbelievable
stuff. But just thinking about, obviously, he did some work on the side for me, and he's doing that, obviously, to add to income and all that stuff. But what you guys have to do for the amount of money you get paid, it's absolutely amazing. And it seems to me the trade-off is the appreciation and all the people that appreciate what you've done for them over the years. One story I have is our mother passed about 9 years ago or so. And during the wake, we had a lot of people come through that knew my mother, but even more people came through who knew Lenny and knew him because he coached them and he helped them along the way. And that, to me, just kind of takes the place of the salary you might have missed out on in another job. So all these lives you touched, it's really amazing. And I think you got to be applauded for that. So.
Listen, it's you're coming in, you're not going to make a lot of money. You're not going to be rich, but you're not going to suffer. My wife's a teacher too, so we're kind of fortunate. If it was just me, it'd be a different ballgame. It probably couldn't do some of the things I would do. Right. But I mean, we have time. I have the fortunate now where I work on the side doing little things here and there, but all my coaching salaries and everything I coach, can pay all my bills. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to do all these things for kids because I don't have to worry about getting another job and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's where it definitely does help you out.
So support the coaches. That's what I'm saying, guys. They have some side
vote
gigs.
for your school budgets. I mean, that's what it is. I mean,
absolutely.
We talk about that. I mean, listen, some of the educators get under fire because of, a couple of years ago, it was making us pay for our health benefits now. And that has taken a lot of money out of a lot of our pockets. I mean, for years, we always had benefits that were paid for. And then in the last, 9 years, all of a sudden we got to pay more and more. And that comes right out of our salary. And it's not like we can go make some more money. I mean, I can go coach and I'll make less money per hour. So it's like, I need some overtime work. Okay, well, you can go tutor, you can make it, but you're still making less money than you normally make. So it's weird. It's the only job where when you work overtime, you make less. So it's kind of weird with that. But
you guys went to college on false pretense, in my opinion. So you guys got college, get the teaching degree, and you thought you were going to have this covered, that covered, this covered, and then all of a sudden everything starts getting whittled away. So,
I mean, we've talked about I've talked about your benefits and my benefits, and I turn my benefits down. I take my wives and. Up until this year, I used to get $3,500 as a check because I turned it down, and they took that away from us. Yeah, so it's kind of like, well, can I just take that and sell it to my brother? Because if I sold it to him for $5,000, he would save himself $20,000 a year. It's like, take that. It's just unbelievable what they're worth, and they don't give us anything for it. So, and then we still got to pay into it. So it's rough. But again, you're not making a lot of money, but it's not about that.
Yeah. So I had a question about more of the youth of today, and we talked about this last week, I think, with Tom. And do you see it as a difficulty or maybe a change in how you have to motivate kids nowadays? With the social fabric of life and social media and what's going on, do you find different ways to try to motivate them?
Well, again, you're probably going to be surprised by this answer, but I say it to everybody. I don't really think kids have changed much. What has changed is parents and the coaches. Because I could think back when I was a coach, when I first started coaching, there's a lot of things that I might have said to kids that I wouldn't say anymore. You'd get ways to motivate kids that you'd be like, oh, I can't really say that. And then when you're younger and you're getting coached by people, every one of us that has played a sport knows that sometimes your coaches are on you saying things and you're like, man, that's the way my coach did it. But we can't do that nowadays. You can't talk to kids like that. And the biggest thing that I talk to parents, and I have a parents meeting every year with my parents going over like an expectations meeting. I have like a PowerPoint slide that I go through. And the biggest thing I ever ask parents for is just a simple thing of support. Don't back talk, anything that we say. If you can always have our back, even if you don't agree with me, have my back in front of your kid. Because if you want a one-on-one meeting with me, and my parents know I have a 24-hour rule, no matter what happens after a game, you got to wait 24 hours to talk to me. Because if I've lost, I'm not happy, and if I'm happy, I might say something about that I regret. So either way, I might say something I regret. So there's a 24-hour rule, and if they want to call me for a meeting, I'll meet with them at any time. And if I feel it's going to get hostile, I might have an AD there or somebody. But I'll tell parents right away, like a simple scenario was here. Like if little Johnny's coming to practice and little Johnny comes to me and says, Coach, what do I got to do to get better? And it's like, oh, you got to do this, and this. And I tell the kids exactly what he needs to do to get better, because I'm not going to lie to a kid. You got to be honest with him, because kids, kids know real. They know if you're lying. They know if you're being fake. Kids know that stuff. So if you tell kids what he needs to do to get better, and then he goes home and mommy and daddy say, oh, well, coach is full of crap. You're good. You're good enough. It's the coach's fault that you're not playing. Okay. And then the kid goes back and plays video games. He doesn't do anything that I just asked him to do. Conversely, if the kid went home and he said, man, daddy said it, or coach said I need to do this, and to get better. He goes, yeah, coach is exactly right. You better do that or you're never going to play. And then now what's the kid going to do? I got to go to work. So he's going to start working harder. So that's all I ask the parents. If you can think I'm a jerk, and then you can say that to your kid, and then call me up and call me a bum, call me this, call me that, that's fine. But at least your kid's going to get better, because I want to play the best kids. I don't care what your name is. I don't care who your parents are. I don't care. I want to win football games. That's my job on a Saturday or a Friday night, is to win football games. And I haven't met a coach that wants to play a kid that's not the best kid because of some other reason. I've never met that guy. Maybe I'll find him someday, but I've never met the guy that's going to play a kid that's inferior over a kid that's better than him, because we all work way too hard to put something out there that's not the best we can put out there. So, I mean, that's the main thing I know with parents is, I think we've changed. I think we ask less of kids. We don't say the same things we've said to kids because of fear of this, fear of that, fear of parents' reaction, because, listen, we grew up. If I came home and my dad's, I asked my dad and said, what happened today? Well, I got yelled at. What'd you get yelled at for? Well, I did this. Well, what are you doing? Why'd you do that? Blah, 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 And right away, we're wrong. You're automatically wrong. And you get a smack, or, they all watched me get beat when I was a kid because I was a pain in the ass. I mean, that's simple as that. So, I mean, I got some beatings for it, but I learned. And nowadays, if a kid comes home and the parent says, well, what happened at school? Well, coach said I did this. Oh, did you do it? No. Oh, well, I'm going to go to the principal. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. And all of a sudden, they didn't even question the teacher, and that somebody's already attacking you and went above your head. And it's like, well, listen, I don't make up these stories just to bust your kid, just to say lies about your kid. So I'm fortunate. I have great parents, so I don't really deal with this, but I hear horror stories from other guys. And I think that's the biggest thing, where it's the parental support. If somebody comes home and backs up what you say, then you're going to have great parents and you're going to have great kids. I mean, I look at the kids and I look at my team every year, and I look at back when we played, and I can put my team almost every year. I have a team. I can put that into my team when I played. These are there's always going to be that percentage of kids, that 10 to 15% of the kids that are going to do every single thing you tell them to the letter of the law. Then there's going to be that middle, 60%, maybe group of kids, 70% group of kids that are always going to just go with the flow. They're going to go one way or the other. And then there's going to be that bottom group of kids, that 10%, 20% maybe, that just don't want to do what you ask them to do. They're like, I don't want to do this workout. I don't want to do that. And they want to play games. They only want to play games. They don't want to do everything they can to get better. So my job is to just get that middle pack, more and more of those kids to follow the front group. And if I can get them to follow the front group and not follow the bottom group, and then the bottom group, in my opinion, some of these kids, by the time we get to our game, some of these kids are already going to quit. Because I'm going to make it so hard. And I tell kids, I'm making practice hard. I'm going to make this hard. I'm going to get on you. I'm a hollerer as a coach. I'm going to get on you because I want you to quit in practice than quit in the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to work all this time and work all this hard work. I have my coaching staff and all these guys that put in these hours to have you walk out of a game because you just, at the third and goal, and it's time to stop somebody so we can win, you're going to quit because it doesn't mean that much to you. Right. I want you to quit in preseason somewhere. Right. So that's where we're going to try to weed those kids out. And a lot of times we're successful with that. And, it's just a matter of kids that just don't have the drive. But I'm fortunate enough, we don't always have the best talent, but we do have great kids that work hard. And I think it's just a matter of, as coaches, we have to change a little bit because, the cursing of kids, the degrading, the some of the drills that we used to do, you just can't do that stuff anymore. Yeah. I mean, you can't do these drills with kids running full speed into each other because
Oklahoma's.
I mean, anything I do as a drill, like Oklahoma drill, basically man. Like Tom said, Oklahoma drill is there's two guys on defense, there's two guys on offense. He runs into him and he runs over him. Okay, well, somebody's going to get hurt every once in a while. When two guys are running full speed into each other from 15 yards away, it's not normal. So somebody's going to get hurt. So I do drills where, all right, defense is going to have two guys and offense will have three. This way, somebody's got to get off a block to make that tackle. Now it's more realistic. And I know my kids are going to run full speed into each other if they need to, but I got to limit that because if he runs into him and he gets a concussion, guess what? I've lost him for a month. So what good is that for me? I need that kid to play in games. I don't need to prove how tough he is in a practice. So that's where I look at it as coaches, we've changed and we've done stuff that's better for the sport. And I think we've also, I know my program, we've won over parents because of the stuff and the education that we do for our coaches.
Well, it brings me up to a story. I'm sure everyone watched The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. But he talked about how when I think he didn't make the varsity team his sophomore year and he came home. He said, Mom, I didn't make it. And the mom said something that he said just took him off in his career. And he said, well, I guess you got to work harder. And that's it.
That's exactly what I saw that thing. And I said that's exactly it. Now, if his mom would have said, well, that's because the coach doesn't like you and you're this and you're that. Let's go in and meet the principal. Then Michael Jordan would have thought he was good enough and would have never worked hard.
Right.
So his mom just made him work hard because you didn't make the team. And that's the simplest thing that you just said right there that I think that's where parents have changed. And some of the parents don't do that with their kids and they take what their kids say truth without and you think now you're accusing an adult of lying. Like, okay, well, really, do you think I really want to make up lies about your kid just so I can take my time off and my time at home with my family and my off period to deal with this? I don't want to do that. I want to sit and eat my lunch and don't bother me, And now I got to deal with all this stuff because I want to make up lies. It doesn't happen. I never met a teacher that did it, Yeah.
Do you feel like there's Do you feel like there's teachers now that don't even approach the parents now just because they don't want to get into that?
No, listen, I think one thing we have now, is we have more parent contact. Because I know in our district, we are, especially with what just happened during the pandemic, there's so much parent-teacher contact because you have to stay on the kids. And it's a matter of some of the barriers, with technology and stuff that might prevent that. But I know we're more and more in contact with parents as much as we can be because the parents that you call back kids, if you don't get calls back, then you know what you're dealing with. If you get calls back right away, then you get parents that care about their kids a lot. And I always tell kids, if your parent just lets you do whatever you want to and doesn't keep track of you, doesn't care where you are, doesn't tell you to check in, then I say, listen, if your parent's always asking where you are and checking in and calling, that parent cares a lot more. And they care where you are. I don't know as a parent, I just always question if you're not asking your kids where they're going, who they're with, do you really care? That's where, and it stinks. And you look at it both ways and kids like, oh, my mom's always nagging me. I said, well, how would you feel if they didn't nag you?
Right.
How would you feel if they didn't do all this stuff? Would you feel like you were loved? So you got to kind of show the kids. It's good that you have that because you tell kids, you'll never know the feeling until you have a kid, what that feels like. And once you get there, and some of my kids that I've had as players, like 3 or 4 of them just recently had babies. And I told them, just wait when that moment happens, when the baby pops out and your whole life changes. And the whole outlook on everything you always think is important is all gone. And I get texts, Z, you are so right about that. Oh my God, everything just changed. All I wanted to do was go to work more. I go, yeah, it just changes you because that means you're a good kid and you were raised good, Some people don't have that, that attraction to a kid like that and don't feel that way,
Do you have any rules against social media with your players, like them being allowed to use it? Because, just from when we were in school, I think I got my first cell phone after I graduated. It's like so radically different.
Well, we go over that stuff with the kids, especially with I talk to the kids about being smart with your social media, not doing stuff. And for us, a lot of times I use Twitter a lot as a coach and Facebook just to publicize things with my program. And, it's a great way for recruiting. And I have my kids use it for college recruiting. They can tag their highlights, their coaches. So it's unbelievable how much exposure the kids can get themselves if they know how to do it right. And I've had kids that have done it right, and we've talked to kids about it. And my kids that want to play in college, I show them how to use it and what they got to do. The biggest thing is when we're playing teams, we don't need to be shooting our mouths off. We don't need to do that.
Giving that material.
And, you just don't need to do that. And we've had some battles with some teams, and I know other teams have done some stuff, and my kids are like, Coach, I'm like, I don't care. I said, we will be typing up our text on Friday night or on Saturday afternoon at 1:00. Our text will be sent. That's what I tell them. That's when our message will be sent. And then, you have some times where some of the teams fire stuff at us like crazy, and my kids are chomping at the bit to respond to things, and I'm like,
wait till you get on the field.
Response better than taking a picture at the scoreboard at the end of the game.
Absolutely.
When you've beat somebody, there's nothing they can say, so don't worry about it. That's our ultimate goal. And, I just remember one of our kids did something once, and he after a game, we beat a rival, and there was a lot of stuff going back and forth, and my kids were very good about it, I got to say. And he made one text at the end of the game, and I saw it, and I was like laughing my butt off because it was so fitting. But I called him and said, that was hilarious. I can't like it, but it was hilarious. But thank you. And this is my kid. Listen, we always have some kids on a team that you gotta reel in because they're just,
wow, man.
You play with them.
Yeah,
you play with one of the best ever in TJ. You got to, some of these kids, when it's game time, you got to let them go because they're just motivation-wise, excitement-wise, spirit-wise, they're off the charts. And this was my kid on this team who just sent nothing mean, just something that was perfect. And it was kind of like, that was so, and I was applauding them for not doing it beforehand. So, and with the kids with social media, you got to tell them anything you share, you like, you retweet, it's yours. You can just say, I liked it. Well, then it's like you sent it. It's like you did it. So you got to be careful because everything you do that to is going to be on you, So, and that's stuff that the kids got to do, and coaches sometimes we all got to be smart with what we do with that and everything, and just be smart, and just, you don't want to, offend people, So that's the biggest thing that kids, and then don't want to give, like you said, bulletin board material to kids.
Bulletin board material. Right. See, I don't think people realize enough what you guys have to go through in the off season. Obviously, I know, come August, I don't even call you anymore. I don't talk to you anymore. It's like Lenny's in his own world till November, December, hopefully December. Yeah. But some of the camps you have to do. I remember when you were interviewing for the head coaching job, I figured, I got some business experience. Let me ask Lenny. Len, you prepare for the interview? What do you got? He's like, yeah, I got it. I'm like, well, let me see. And you open up like a trapper keeper, almost a dictionary. This is what I have. This is my guidelines. This is my rules. I'm like, wow. All right, never mind. Talk to you later. It was thick as a dictionary. But some of the stuff that you've done for motivation, I talked to the guys about, we were going to implement it, is your point system. Yeah. So I want to hear a little bit about that if you could. Yeah.
I actually have this, and I actually got to give credit. One of my friends is a coach up in Montclair, John Fiore. He's the one who actually gave me his guidelines. I knew what he did. And he sent it to me, and I kind of changed it a little bit to fit my program. So basically, it's a point system. And the great thing in the way it works is to make it fair for the older kids. I always give, if you have years in the program, so say I'll just go through how the points work. So if that's what you want to go through the whole thing. Okay, it's pretty long.
I know that's okay. So.
I won't go too crazy about it. So basically, there's a point system based on how many years you're in the program, and the biggest factor in this, the two things that are biggest factors, is how many workouts you make percentage wise to how many we have, and what is your GPA. So basically, if you have an A, you get 10 points. If you have a B, you get 8. If you have a C, you get 6. If you have a D, you get 4. And if you have an E if you fail, you get 0. So if you're getting D's and you're you're getting 2 points or 4 points, and somebody's getting A's, they're going to, because that's based on, end of first semester, second semester, that counts twice. So if you don't do that, you might be behind 15 points on somebody. And these points come down to you got a lot of kids tied at the top with stuff. So I also give points based on, I told you the workouts, and then we do a lot of charity work. We do a lot of volunteerism, a lot of community service. So if you show up at things that I put as a priority for stuff, you get 3 points. If you come to a meeting that I think is important, you get a point. If you do this, you get a point. So there's all different ways the kids can get points. And the biggest thing I do with the points is there's things that I can hold over the kids' heads. The thing that the kids all want is, our locker room. We have these nice sit-in lockers that are like a college locker kind of, well, not what they look like nowadays, but there's a sit-in place where you can sit in it and everything. So there's only 24 of them. So point total leaders get first shot at the locker room. So they go in there, they put their name on a locker, and they take it. They get first shot at equipment, which means when I call out the list, number 1 with the points, and sometimes you have 1, 2, there's sophomores that are up there ahead of seniors. So, there's sometimes that happens, and sometimes there's a little intimidation that goes on, but I'll get into that in a minute. But I talk to the kids, and listen, and the other biggest thing is jersey numbers.
Right.
So if you have a number and you pick a number as a sophomore and you get this number, it's I want this number for 3 years, for my next 2 years. And I look at them and say, well, you got to earn it back. And it's if somebody comes in with a higher point total and takes it, it's theirs. And you got to, I tell them, you can get that back, but it might cost you some money. It might cost you something because the kids can, I said, listen, you can wheel and deal. I know I laugh at it. My son had good point total his one sophomore year, and he had a big locker, and one of the seniors wanted it. And he came home and told me, what do I do? I said, well, I tell you exactly what I tell everybody else. It's yours to give up. And I tell my seniors, if you intimidate a kid or you try to force it that way, then you will not get it because I will find out about it and I will take it away from you. So I tell, and the one kid offered him $50 and he gave him the locker. So it's like, okay. I said, and then, some of these kids that get it, I'm like, are you okay with this? Yeah, coach. I said, okay. And I laugh. I said, that's fine. This is yours. This is how the market works. This is how it works for life. If you want something that somebody has, you got to what? You got to pay them and you got to do this. So it's just a matter of, it teaches them what real life is about, and I love it. I say to the kids all the time, we are an effort-based program. If you put in no effort, you don't get anything. If you put in a lot of effort, you will get things. But at the end of the day, the best kids are going to play. I don't care. You might be the best kid, have the highest point total every year, but if you can't play football, you're not going to play. It's just that simple. Yeah. That's where that will take care of it. But any kid can play for me. You might come out and have no points, but hopefully you're eligible because you got grades. But if you have some points and you don't have to do a thing all off season. But you're not going to get a good choice of locker. You're not going to get a good equipment. You're not going to get the number you want. But if you come out there and you're the best player, you're going to play. I'm a coach. I got to put the best kids on the field. But this is how I motivate my kids in the offseason, and I hold it over them at all times. And it's been good for me. And I've had some kids that have made us think about it, but I really don't care. I just tell them, listen, that's the list. You want to check it? And I post updates to it constantly. And this year it's been thrown into, I can't even use it right now. I can only use it for the fall season, the winter, because after that everything has been thrown into a whole monkey wrench with the whole pandemic. But it's a great thing that I use and I love it, and it's something I'll always use. As far as in my program, it's just accountability, man. How do you keep track of everything you want them to do? Bang, there it is right there.
Well, I think it comes back to keeping the kids motivated, obviously. Mm-hmm. But one thing that even when we were younger, we had every single Friday we did charts from the previous week, and I think this is an extension of that. So charts
Thursday.
is
Friday for you, but now we played on Saturday.
Well, yeah, we used to play on Saturdays every time. So the charts would say you'd have them all lined up along the locker room, every single one. You'd see where you are in totals. So you're talking about sacks, you're talking about hurry ups. Bell ringers back in the day. I don't know if you have those anymore. Anyway, no comment. Unsung hero, all that kind of stuff. So I think, and then you get stickers on your helmet from that. So everyone looked forward to that. Everyone got excited about that. And I think, back to what you were saying with the point system, it's doing the little things right every day. Like we had one guy that started with us. He was doing the little things right every single day. He wasn't seeing the sales come in, but he was making the calls. He was contacting people, doing the right thing. And then all of a sudden a waterfall of sales come in. So, and it's all about teaching people to do the right things every day. It's about the process, not about the results. Mm-hmm. So at first you start with the process and then the results are going to come.
Yep.
But I wanted to ask you about a few other things. So you talked about some of the events that you do, the charities. I mean, we just talked about, obviously the car washes, you do all that kind of stuff for fundraising, but you're talking about the Surf for Autism. Mm-hmm. I'd like to hear about some of the charities you guys do.
Yeah, we through the course of the year, there's a couple of things that we do. Right, so if I go through the whole season, during our season, we really don't do a lot of stuff during the season, right. And then once we exit the season, then we got other things that go on. So from there, tonight we're going to it. It's called the Brick Rec Department and the POAC, which is the Parents of Autistic Children. They have they do an Autism Surf Day. And I got to say, it's one of the best things that we do as a group. Basically, we go to Brick Beach 3, and we work in conjunction with the lifeguards at Brick Beach and a couple other volunteer organizations. And our team comes out there, and you basically take these kids this is their best day of the year. They go out to the beach, and these kids that sometimes they're going to fight you on this tooth and nail. And you warn our kids, listen, these kids sometimes they get startled. They're going to swing. Be ready. Just be ready. Something could happen. Swivel. And some of these kids, all of a sudden, they get on that surfboard, and there's 10 kids on the surfboard guiding them in on the waves, and you see smiles on their face that you've never seen before. Awesome. And some of our kids that have never really been, because we get high school kids, some of these kids have never been involved with something like this until they come with us. And then I always get them together afterward and say, all right, somebody tell me, how did that make you feel? And it's just made me feel like I just did so much for a kid that, is so unfortunate than me. And it just made me feel like a better person. I said, that's all you wanted to do. And then I give the kids hours. They got stuff they got to do for Honor Society, for all these things and volunteer. So you get the credit for that. But the part is you want to see them understand of the credit you want them to really understand is how they feel inside and how they feel about themselves. And that's where I think it's great that we do it. And I love the fact of how many kids we have that volunteer for it every year. We usually have probably about 40 to 50 kids there. And this year, because of the concerns, we really can't have that many kids. We're limited to how many kids can come. But I told the other kids they can come and watch. So I wouldn't doubt if 30 of my kids come and watch. because they can't participate, but they want to be there. So that's probably what we'll have tonight. But I mean, it's just a great thing that we do. The other thing we'll do is we have a charity basketball game that we've been playing. It's actually started my senior year in high school. I know you played in it. It's basically like the Helping Hands basketball game we do with the Brick Township Police Department. And the police department actually picks a person from our community that's down on their luck with a health issue. Maybe their kid is fighting something or somebody in the family is. Usually it's for the kids, and the parents have to quit working or do something to help with the kid's sickness. So we'll do something like that every year, and we've done it every year. It's been going on since 1990, my senior year, that we've done it. And basically, at the end of it, I mean, our kids, and this is what I tell them, it's a great thing for me to be able to say it, but I tell the kids that they have tickets to sell. So I give each kid a stack of 10 tickets. I said, once you sell these, you come back to me. And it's like $2 or $3, depending on if you're a kid or an adult. I said, but you can sell them for whatever you want to. And whoever brings in the most money is a starting 5. I said, I can be bought. This is where I can be bought. You come in here.
It's all about money.
I can be bought. I said, this is charity. Money talks. And I tell the kids, and I keep track of who brings in the most money. And sometimes it might be the worst starting 5 in the history of basketball, but I don't care. I said, listen, in the fourth quarter, we try to win the game. Right. I said, before that, there's a list, just like the point total. There's a list from 1 to 10, however many seniors we got. And whoever brings in the most money, and it could be the best player on the team, could be number 10. And he's going to get less reps than the other guys. And we just, every 2 minutes, I just keep rotating them in. And it's funny because maybe 5 kids in that first group that not one of the kids can dribble a basketball. Guess what? We're in trouble. But then the other group might be all the best players, but that's what happens. And then we and one year I had a kid that didn't play football, but he came in and said, Coach, I really want to play. Can I go, listen, you bring in $100, I'll let you play in the game. I talked to the captains. They said they'll let you play. Okay. Kid pulls $100 out of his pocket and said, I want to play. I said, hey, I can't be bought. Let's go. So I said, I can't put you up there with the first group. I said, I don't want to do that to my guys. And again, I told you, it's just a matter of having fun with it. And we've raised probably my team alone, because I have the seniors raise the ticket money. I have the younger kids walking around with a jug at school. We've probably brought in close to $1,000 every year for that we give to that. And the police department does an unbelievable job. I mean, it's up to $20,000, $30,000 it gets to. Awesome. So it's unbelievable with that. And then what we've started doing, we've done a thing called the spring cleanup. We started when we first actually did it the first time. We did it for one of our families in our program that was dealing with a financial hardship because the mother was battling cancer, so she wasn't working. So we raised money and gave it to the family. And this year we've kind of taken that. After we did that, what we've done is we've had those kids. The next team would do what we call a spring cleanup, where we'd go around in Brick and we'd have our kids basically like clean up your yard after the spring, like pick up this, leaves, all that kind of stuff. And you'd give a donation of like over $100, and we would do that. And we take some of that money, and a portion of that went from our team to that same thing, because basically they were very close to time frame when those two events happened. And it was more of a way for the younger kids to give to it, as well as the older kids selling the tickets. So we've done good raising money for that. And, then like little things here and there. Anything that comes up. We did a Greenbrier cleanup when the flood happened at Greenbrier, 1 or 2 right over and by exit 91. We went over there and we cleaned out some people's houses that have basically everything they own, and not some people that don't have great means, but we cleaned out their houses. We took everything out. We did this, we did that. So we had a team involved with that. Our team was involved in Sandy with helping that. So our kids, whenever something comes up, we're there. And people call me with something, we're there. If there's something that, that we can't do, I mean, we can't, but there's probably nothing we'll say no to.
Well, and it reminds me, obviously, the Sandy thing, just how the guys going around to every single place in Cherry Quay, for instance, Shore Acres, that was amazing. But also wanted to touch base on the Geisler brothers, see how they're doing, because that
going to bring that up.
That just brought the whole community together, the whole community. That thing just
that went viral, man.
That was crazy. I was never. I mean, we were talking about it, and when one of the boys texted me, said, "Coach, Pat and Tyler's it's actually their grandmother. She's not doing good. She's in the hospital." I'm like, "Really?" Like, oh man. And then I'm like, I got to give them a call. So I get called that night. I give them a call. See how they're doing. Yeah, Coach, we're fine. You sure everything's good? Yeah, we're fine. I was like, okay, grandma, she's okay. And then the next day I hear from another kid, their grandmother died last night. I'm like, what?
Oh my God.
And like, this is the way the kids are. They're never going to ask for anything. So I called them. I said, guys, I goes, yeah, well, grandma passed. And they were living in a hotel at Wanky's Motel in Point Pleasant, which I think a lot of you know is not the classiest place. So they were living there. They were behind on their rent. And I came over. I said, listen, tomorrow I'm coming over and I'm taking you guys to breakfast, and we got to talk about what we can do. So when I came to the house right away, I was like, oh my God, it was it was just disgusting. I feel bad for the guys, but because they were so busy with trying to work to pay the bills, seeing grandma, nobody was taking care of the house. So we kind of just gutted the place. My parents stepped up right away and brought stuff for the kids, and me, a couple of the coaches just gave some, we went to the store, bought stuff for the kids right away to get the house settled. And then one of my coaches, Scott Lloyd, says, what if we do some type of GoFundMe for the kids? And I'm like, yeah, you think? He's like, you think people would give? He's like, yeah, I think they might. So Scott's like, I'll set it up. All right. So Scott set it up, and all of a sudden it was like, boom. I was like, what the? And it went over like $70,000, $80,000. And then we're like, wow, it's just unbelievable how it took off. The news covered it and everything. And the main thing it was because the kids were just, they would never ask for anything. They were two unassuming kids that would never ask for your help. That's just the type of kids they are. Like if you gave them something, like I had people reach out to give them phones, to give them this, to give them that, furniture. And they would always say, well, can I set up a payment plan? It's like, no. Are you sure? I don't feel right about this. Can I give you? And people would say, no, I want you to be a kid. You shouldn't be dealing with this stuff. You've had to deal with this for your whole life, but you shouldn't be. And that's what all they said. I want you to be a kid. And they wouldn't take anything. And I remember one guy basically like almost cursing one of them. Don't give me anything. Put that back in your pocket. And he was scared. I'm like, it was just awesome because they were treated like a kid. And he goes, well, I remember the one guy, this guy from up north, I forget his name. I got to remember his name. He brought the boys 2 cell phones. Yeah. And he came down, he met with them, and he's like, listen, he has like 5 kids at home. And this guy, basically another guy who kind of dragged himself, he lost his job, he drug himself out of the gutter and made himself, earned everything back again. This is one of those great stories. And he said, listen, man, these phones are yours, boys. But I'm going to tell you, if you go on the phone and you start charging this, charging that, I'm going to come down here and kick in the ass like I would do my own kids. It's like, okay, that's, because he goes, I'm going to treat you like I would treat my own kids. And that's all you really can, that was great how it turned out. And the money is in an account for the boys, and whenever they need something, they can get it from it. So it's just great that it's there for them. That's something that, down the road, they're actually doing well now. They're living with their older sister who has a baby and her boyfriend. They're all together as a family under one roof. So they're actually talking on their birthdays and stuff. How's it going? Holidays? Good. We're celebrating here with each other. That's great to hear. So I just love to hear that there. And I try not to bother them too much. I just want updates. Here they are. I get a call every once in a while. Coach, can we take? Sure. Go to the account, take some money out if you need it for that. But they're doing well, and they're just great kids. Great kids.
I want to give a shout out too for that because I've started now giving closing gifts and going to Joe Leone's and getting gift baskets. And I shout out to Joe Leone because I heard he did some great stuff. And and he doesn't like the publicity. I know.
No, that guy is unbelievable. I mean, one of our kids actually still works there. Tyler, he gave Tyler a job. He said, "Listen, I'll give you a job here, and I'll pay you this, and you'll be fine." And he did there, and he goes, "Listen, the kid's a great employee. It's not. I just heard what you said about him, and that's the guy I want on my team, and that's where he's working there." And he's got a great connection with Joe, who I think he wants to be a teacher down the road. So the connections you can build up. That's what it's kind of about in certain jobs. Yeah. So he's doing a great job there working. He's getting raises when he needs to get raises, and he's earning his money, and he loves it being there.
And I know he gave him a lot of food and all that stuff.
Oh,
so, yeah, and I'll take some of that, Joe. No, I'm just
kidding. Listen, he told me, Coach, he goes, I want you to go in there and fill up whatever you want, take it home. I'm like, Joe.
Don't tell me that.
I'm like, this is my place here. I'm going to take every piece of sausage and mutts and peppers that you got here. He goes, take it all. I'm like, oh my God. So I filled up a bunch of stuff, and I ate like a king for 2 days now. A little longer than that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, great stories, man, with the charity and where you ended up and everything. Now we're dealing with this crazy pandemic. Yeah. So what's the game plan for Brick and your coaching program on where you guys are going with that? Like how you're going to be doing practices and.
Well, just for me, I mean, for the way me as a coach, I'm a little messed up where I kind of loved. There's a grind with being a coach in the off season and how much workouts. I'm usually there 5 a.m. I'm there after school for the kids' workouts. So I'm usually in contact with my kids at all times. So having this has been driving me nuts because I can't constantly see the kids. I can't constantly get on them. I can't constantly kick them in the butt when they need to and be there when they need me. So it's been rough for me, but I mean, our school district has done a great job, and everything they've planned for the kids. And for us right now, we're going to be entering phase 1 of our summer recess plan. And we just had a meeting this morning about it. So basically July 13th, 15th, the 20th, and 22nd, we're allowed to start practices with the kids, but we really can't implement a ball use yet. We got to do all social distancing guidelines, masks when needed. So it's just going to be more of doing a lot of workouts with the kids to try to get them towards getting in shape. We're not going to put them in shape in 4 days. But this is the phase 1, and then there'll be phase 2, and phase 2 is coming out on Friday. So it's just a matter of doing everything right, getting the kids set up in groups. And our athletic department, Pete Panusko, our superintendent, Tommy Farrell, have been doing a great job of just giving us guidance and everything that we need to do and telling us every step of the way what we need to do, doing it the right way. So, we have a good good district that loves academics, but they love athletics and they know the importance of them. So it's just great to have that and have that support. So I feel confident about everything that we do will be done first class to prevent anything from being transferred from us. Listen, the kids, you go to the beach, the kids are there. You go here, they're there. You go there, they're all hanging out together. But when they come here, masks on, 6 feet away. So we got to abide by that rule. And it's going to be tough for some of these kids to do that because some of the kids haven't done it that much, because the kids are kids. They don't realize what's going on. They know probably the dangers of it, but they all feel they're invincible, like we all did when we were kids. So, if they don't have, they could have gotten it and not noticed it. So, there's going to be things that we got to deal with the kids and going forward with this. But I'm just hoping that we're back in school and we have our fall season, because that's just something that we just don't know where it's going to be then.
Are they talking about like games with no attendance and you guys are just playing?
Well, actually, we have our graduation tomorrow. My son's a senior, so we're having
which is great.
Our graduation, which is going to be done in 2 sessions. Split the alphabet in half, split the kids in half. 2 parents can go do the graduation ceremony, and then it's kind of be a condensed version. But at least it's something.
Yeah.
So we'll have that, and then going forward, that's all stuff that I can imagine that's all the stuff that we'll have to deal with. Who can be at the games? Who cannot? Can we even have indoor sports? Can we not? Our schedule, how is it going to work? Are all the kids going to be in school together? Or are they not? There's a lot of things to worry about with this. And, some of us, we got to look at is as teachers, as educators. A lot of the kids probably won't be fazed by this, but some of the teachers are getting older. Some of them could be at high risk. Right. So you got to worry about the health of the teachers too. So it's just so many things that come into play with this, where I know between our union and between our district, they'll put us in where we need to be successful. And if something happens where we can't have a season, just something I really don't want to think about. And it's not even something that I'm even preparing for, because you can't. It's like preparing to lose something. You don't want to prepare to lose something.
Right.
Nobody goes in and say, "Hey, man, we're going to sell this house probably for $5,000 under what we're asking, so we're going to do it." No, nobody wants to do that. So you're not going to lower your goal. Our goal is we're going to have a season, and we're going to do this, and we're not going to think about if we don't.
Right.
Not in this market, by the way.
not in this market. Not in this market.
No, but I did want to bring up 2 questions here, or one question that I haven't asked you yet because I'm scared of you still about it.
So you're hiding behind the mic here?
Now I'm protected. Well, most people don't know, but Lenny is older than me. We always get this question. I'm taller than him. And he always asks, who do you think's older? And he takes this as almost a badge of honor. But I think it's because I'm taller, and usually a taller person.
Because you have no hair. You're losing hair.
So I wanted to ask you how 2 certain losses affected you. So don't jump across the bit. I didn't even ask you this ever. But no. So obviously you had 2 state championship games that you played in against Allentown as a coach. Obviously, high school is a different story. But so against Allentown, a completely different loss than the one against Long Branch. Long Branch was head-to-head. That was an awesome game. What a battle. They were amazingly talented. So I wanted to ask you what you learned from those, how maybe it reinvigorated you. Funny, before we started here, you just showed me a picture of the Allentown scoreboard when you guys lost. So that right there makes me realize that it still sticks in your mind and it motivates you every day. So.
It's as a coach, there's things that motivate you. And, we talk about that picture of the Allentown scoreboard. We're at Rutgers, and it's just seeing, it was the worst playoff loss in the history of Brick Township High School, which is a storied history. So that didn't sit well with me. I was the coach of the team that had the worst loss. And, we were, at that day, we were out-coached, we were outclassed, and we just didn't get the team prepared to play. And I look at that as a setback for me and the staff, and we've talked about that, and how do we get better from that? That loss was, when you lose something like that, it's I hate to say it, but it's a little easier than when you lose a close game. When you lose a close game, there's everything you got to question, every little thing you did. Yeah. When you lose a game where you're just totally outclassed, you feel upset, you feel like you could have done more, but it's kind of like, at halftime, it was almost like, oh, God. And the kids, you're trying to motivate them, and they're just looking, you see the look in their eyes. And like as a coach, you're like, you never want to say it, but it's like, man, we're going to have to do something amazing to try to compete with this team. They're just that much better than us. But Long Branch was not like that. It was back and forth. And there's questions. I look at stuff, and I'm like, I wish I would have done this. This probably would have been better. That's where you question every little thing. that you've done, because it could have made a difference. One play could have changed the game. I know there's a couple things that I look at that in a game saying, man, if I should have done this, I should have done that, I could have, and that's what you look at. But then you look back in your preparation, you're like, oh, well, we did prepare for everything. Something that they beat us on, did we prepare for that? Yes, we did. And then, it comes to the point of, and you're never going to blame a kid. That's not the way I was brought up with Coach Wolf. It's always the coach's fault. But then you look at things and you're like, all right, well, on this play, we didn't make the play. This kid was in a position to make a play, didn't. This kid could have done that, he didn't. I could have called something better, I didn't. And those things are going to come up. So that stuff. But again, it's always going to be the coach's fault. And forever, as long as coaches are at Brick Township, that's the way Coach Wolf instilled it to all of us. And it's true. I mean, but it's something that's the way we always feel about it. But I mean, those losses, they motivate you because that's the last thing you remember. It's rough. But when you're playing in championship level and you're playing in December, only somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. So half the teams are going out of losers. So and how are you going to motivate yourself by that? And then for me, it goes into the off season. I usually give the kids a month off where I don't want to see you. Get away from me. I don't want to go do something else. Go around, hang out here, and then after that, we're going to start up and get ready for the next season. We'll do during that time, we'll talk to the kids, exit interviews, and see about how they feel about everything, and how they felt about the season and stuff, and just and I love talking to the seniors most because they give you the real. They just tell you real what they liked, what they didn't like, and it's good because it makes everything better. Yeah. As you kind of treat this as like a corporation, and you got to find out how can we get better for next year. And this year especially, we had a losing season, my first as a coach, and it's made me look at myself a lot. Like, all right, what do we got to do better? What do we got to do this? We're making changes that I think are better for the team, and it's stuff that I'm not happy to how we did last year, and what I think we could have been better. And I got to change things, and that's what you got to look at yourself constantly.
Well, one thing I remember from that, obviously the Allentown loss, Ada still remembers. Probably one of the most mad I've ever been in my life, and I would just storm that stadium out of there. But what I remember is I think it was either the next year or the year after, on the way to play Long Branch, you played an Allentown team, and I just saw the motivation in the kids' eyes. You had some amazing leaders on that team, in my opinion, and they took it to them really hard, and they had passion in their game that day. So yeah. I was really amazed by that, and I want to talk a little bit about leadership. Obviously, you as a leader, as a coach, that's obvious, but also want to talk about, do you find yourself trying to choose kids that you think are going to be the leaders of the team? You try to grab the person that's going to have the best qualities, have the highest points, that kind of thing. Do you feel like it's that important to try to push up a leader within the team?
Well, for me, I don't pick my captains. We have a thing, and it. There's a varsity club hierarchy of leadership that we use. And basically we have a president, we have a vice president, we have a secretary, we have a treasurer, and we have 3 sergeant of arms. And basically what we do is we have a vote for that. At the end of the season, when we go into our Bernie Cook dinner, which is our father-son dinner, all the returning players will vote for the captains for the next season. And the kids vote for their captains, and they come in to this dinner, and they all vote. They all get a ballot. They all vote. And we try to tell them, listen, it's not a popularity contest. We want the best guys. And for the most part, the kids are going to put their best leaders up there. And we've had 2 years ago, we had a real good team. And one of the leaders in that team, this kid, Jake Weinkoop, he wasn't one of our kids that like one of the best players on our team. He was one of the hardest workers, but he was the best leader on that team because the way he spoke and the way he always motivated everybody. And he didn't have the football background that a lot of our kids have and playing from when they were 5 years old, but he was just an unbelievable speaker. He's out playing at Cornell right now, playing sprint football, so he's brilliant. His parents are both doctors. He's just a great kid. And his vocabulary and the way he spoke, like I was in awe of him sometimes. I look at this kid going, wow, like just the way he used it. And it was just like, you get kids like that. And that team had a lot of great football players on it, but this was the kid that was their captain because they knew nobody could touch him when it came to being the leader. And that's what you like about it. And for me, the way we do our varsity club and our voting, I've added another thing into that because I always want to make it. I always thought about the kids, and I thought of myself when I was a senior. I didn't get voted as one of those guys. So I always wanted to say, there's a way we can do this better. So what I've done is I've added in what we call it the re-election. So what we do is in July, on our last day of summer practices before we go a week off and then we get into camp, we have a revote. And what I tell my kids is any senior that, and I have opened it up to juniors in the past where I didn't think we had the leadership we needed. And if you want to apply, if you want to go for one of those jobs, I give you an application packet. You got to fill it out. You give it to me. And then you have to go out in front of the team at this night of our last practice, and we're in the cafeteria, lights off, there's one shining light on, and you have to go there, and I'm going to interview in front of the whole team, and you're going to answer questions about why you should be in that spot. So what happens is now all the kids that want their spots again, they got to go up there and answer the questions too. And then the team will re-vote. And I said, listen, if those guys that are up there, those 7 guys, if they're all the top point total guys on the team and they're doing everything right, then you know there's no need to change it. And you vote accordingly. But if you think there's one of these guys and, he was voted as the captain, but he's number 40 on the point total, has he done what he's supposed to do? Not really. So maybe it's time to vote somebody else out. And the great thing about it is every year, I shouldn't say great, but the way I know it's working is that every year somebody has been voted out and somebody else has been put on. So it's great for the kids that saw the fact of, man, I wish I can get on that list. I want to be there. You know what? I'm going to work my butt off to prove to everybody they should have voted for me for the first time. So now it gives everybody an opportunity to say, all right, well, I have a chance to get back on that team. And it also gives the kids who are the upcoming players that will vote a chance to understand who is the better leader. Now that these kids are in the spotlight of being a leader, do they do their job? Do they do it the right way? Are they doing nothing to help us? Okay, then we'll vote them out. So it's kind of like the revote, which we call, and I think it's been great for us because it's proven that the kids voted the right guys on, or it's proven that somebody didn't deserve to be there. So that's kind of what I've added to that, and it's been very successful for us so far.
It sounds like off-season accountability too.
Well, again, if you're not going to do anything, do you still deserve to be captain? Right. No, you don't deserve to be captain. So if they vote off everybody, then they vote off everybody. But most of the time, the kids know kids. They know who's real. They know who's doing the right thing. And sometimes you get that popularity vote thing. And sometimes it takes care of itself because any one of those kids on that captain's, basically those 7 kids can be the vocal guy. I mean, if one guy's better at speaking than everybody else, he's going to be the last guy to talk all the time. So the kids know who the guy is. They might have voted for this guy because he was this or he was that, but this is the guy they want to hear from before they come out to the game.
Right. Is it usually like whoever the captain's being voted for, like, is it usually a runaway, or does you ever have a close tie?
It's close. I mean, it's close the way it works out, and we look at the numbers, and we're looking at it going, damn. And if there's, like, need for a revote or something, or there's a runoff, we'll have a runoff with something. We'll tell the kids, listen, we got this is tied, or this is this. And it's like, I tell the kid sometimes, listen, I see it in your eyes. And when we announce the team, I have one of my assistant coaches comes up and he announces it as far as the captains, and all I do is watch the other kids. I watch the kids that I think possibly could have been on that list, and I want to see their reaction. And then after the thing, I go up to him and say, hey, that's why we have the revote. You're a kid that can possibly be in one of those spots. Prove the kids that they were wrong. Prove it to the kids that you deserve to be there. And some of the kids are motivated by it, and a lot of them are. I shouldn't say that, but a lot of them are. And it works so good because it just gives you that second chance where it's like, oh, man, I'm just started my junior year, and I'm not even a chance to be a captain. Nope, you have a chance to get back up there. So
that's awesome.
It seems like the best teams are the ones where the players are doing the self-regulating.
As a coach, I say to my kids all the time, and it's being real with kids and saying, and I've had it in the past. I've had kids that I've coached and kids that when I was assistant coach, and I would say to the kids, and this is one phrase that I've used, and it's high school kids, and we all know our drinking ages and stuff, but we all know what happens. I've said, kids, listen, as much as I don't like it, you're the leader of this team. The problem is you're taking the team right to the keg. I said, that's not helping us. You're not leading the right way. This is the kid I want to be the leader because I love his values. I love what he stands for, but that's not who the kids are following. They're following this kid. And if I can win that kid over, then now I have a chance to get the whole team going where we want to go. Right. And that one kid one year I had, as a coach, I tried to get that kid. I've tried everything in high school to get that kid to see it my way and see what I was telling him. And it didn't happen till the end of his senior year, after he even played football. I think it was like in April. He came to my office and wanted to sit down and talk. And he just said to himself, he told me, I just kicked myself for not listening to you. There's so many things that you told me that I should have listened to that I'm kicking myself now. And I always tell the kids, listen, there's the one thing that I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be hard on you. I'm going to push you. I'm going to push you until you either quit or you follow along with what I'm saying. But the one thing that you will never tell me, and you will never come back and ever say to me, Coach, I think I could have been better if you would have just pushed me harder. Yeah. That's something I won't be able to live with. I'll look at that kid and I'll probably bust out crying right there because I'm like, I let this kid down. I didn't get the most out of him. I'd rather have you come to me and say this, where I wish I would have listened to you. I know now I see what you're telling me. That, as much as I feel bad for the kid, at least I can sleep at night. Yeah. But if it's the other way, I'd probably be up for a week. And I'm thinking, oh my God, how did I let this kid down? And that's where I say, this is what, makes me sane as a coach. And now I can deal with it.
But that's still a win. That kid realized it that early in his life.
That kid did, yeah. Again, he's young now, and now he calls me.
Great.
I get texts from him all the time. Coach, I want to put you down as a reference for this. I want to do. Can you do this for me? Anything you need. And he calls me. He texts me constantly about things, and the kid needs to find his way, and he is finding his way, and it's great because he realizes that I always did have his best interest in mind. You might see me talk about to the kids, and I talk about the dangers of alcohol, drugs, and all the vaping and everything now, and the kids don't want to hear it. Some of them don't want to hear it. But then once they finally hear it, they realize, man, Coach was talking about this. He talked about this. Man, I guess he really did care. I mean, he's talking about these things that I should be doing to make myself better. I just thought he was being a nag. And I say, well, who else was being a nag like that? Oh, my mom, my dad. Okay, well, that's my point. And these are the people that care about you most. And you think they're just nagging you because they don't understand what it's like to be a kid. You're right. None of us know. We've always been there, but none of us know, right?
We learn the hard way, right?
Well, that's what happens sometimes.
That's the thing. We don't want our kids to learn the hard way or, lose a couple years because they were doing drugs or something like that. And they missed out on football because you can't go back to high school, right? Nope. You can go back to college. Yep. You can't go back to high school.
Some of these kids, I mean, it's like the way they find it earlier. And again, it all comes with parents too, because I can say whatever I want to, but if the parents aren't backing it up, then it's really going to go in one ear out the other.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to bring up about, being a coach that there's players coaches, they call it, and they're friendly and they're always getting along with the players versus being the one that might say something that they don't like. Mm-hmm. And you have to do that just to be that one that's looking out for them. So, I mean, what's one of the most difficult things you had to do with players to discipline or, something to get them right on the right track? Any kind of incident like that? Do you remember that you might have
again, I mean, I've had last year I had to cut a kid off my team for the first time. And, the one reason, when I was my first year coaching, Coach Wolf was never a guy that wanted to cut a kid off the team. He always felt like, and I feel the same way, and we would say it about certain kids, and it's the quote of, this kid needs football more than football needs him. Mm. And we would say that because the kid needs to be here. He needs to be around us. He needs to be around these kids. He needs to have the accountability, because if he doesn't, then who knows where he's going. Mm-hmm. And we've had a kid, I remember my first year, this kid, Johnny Vaccaro, that, Coach was trying for so many things, and he was going down the wrong path with doing the wrong things. And, finally Coach let him go off the team. He almost basically cut himself off the team. And a couple months later, he was dead. He got into an accident and he died and overdose kind of stuff. And it was like, to this day, I still remember that kid. And last year when I had to do it to a kid, it was just, I felt like this kid needs us more than we need him, but I can't have him on the team anymore because of, I wasn't sleeping at night knowing that, some of the things that I think this person was doing. And I didn't want it to spread throughout the team. I thought it could be, and I hate to say that we use it like this sometimes, but use the bad apple spoils the bunch, and you use terms like that. And sometimes it does. It can fester. If you have a bad attitude and you let it sit, it can fester, and it could destroy a team. Because, misery loves company sometimes. So I tell the kids about drugs. I said, people that are high and get drunk and do this, they want misery around them. They want kids that want to do it with them. Because if you're miserable, then you'll do it with them, and you'll make them happy because they're not doing it by themselves. Yeah. At least I got other guys here with me. But the kids that don't do this stuff is because they have a good life. They have good this. Everything is good in their life. So they don't need to feel good and have some other way to make themselves feel good. So that's where you tell the kids that if somebody's constantly pushing this stuff on you and wants you to do this with them, then they really just don't care about you. If they can just not respect the fact that you don't want to do it, then again, misery loves company. So they want to try to bring people down with them,
Yeah, we have the same saying, man. Slow to hire, fast to fire. Mm-hmm. I guess it's obviously a bit of totally different mindset of coaching, and I respect that. But with our industry, if we have cancer, I don't care how good of a producer that person is. We want them out. Your name. Yeah. We want them out. So we've made those decisions over the years. But I respect it, man. That you guys try to develop that person because, sometimes these people don't have
they're still young.
Family, friends to support them.
We're dealing with that. Like you said, we're dealing with kids, broken homes, single parent households, more and more financial hardships with parents. We're getting more and more minority kids in Brick Township, with Spanish speaking kids and stuff that parents don't speak English, so it's just tough with the language barrier. But some of these kids have unbelievable work ethics, because they have a family core. But the kids that don't have the family core, sometimes it's tough. They're not getting it from somewhere. And so that's where we need to fill that in. And I know I've had kids and I've helped kids in the past, and I talked about Pat and Tyler, but there's two boys that I coached years ago. There's two kids, Nick and Joe Cusinelli, who kind of were just like Pat and Tyler, but I remember helping them out when they were younger. And now, Joey has his own house. He works as a successful HVAC guy. He has his own business. His brother Nick is a cop in Lakewood, and they're successful. They have houses, and they came from nothing. Their mother now is a nurse. I mean, everything. The whole family has lifted themselves up because they were there for each other. And it's great to see how successful these kids are now. And these kids that came from nothing. So I know it can happen to anybody. It just matters you have the right family around you, and somebody needs to be that for those kids.
I want to try to turn it onto a positive note. I went a little negative there for a little bit, but so I wanted to talk about more any kind of very, some win that was very satisfying for you. We talked about losses, obviously. I don't want to get off of that, but any wins that you really remember. I've talked about the Allentown victory too, but anything that you personally felt like that was great for you or for the team or vice versa or both.
There's like three that stand out. And the first one was when I was an assistant coach, and I believe it was 2001. We had a thing at Brick where we had a couple kids, a bunch of seniors that were kicked off the team because they were at a party that there was drinking going on. And there was a policy that was written in the Board of Ed that it was kind of a crazy policy where if you were at a party where there was underage drinking, no matter what, you were off the team. You were off athletic events. So basically, if you were at Fridays with your family and you're having dinner and somebody comes up with fake ID and gets a drink, is that in violation of it? So it was like a weirdest policy the way it was written. And there was a party that kids had went to, and they were there, and because people were drinking there, they were underage, they all got kicked off the team. And I know it for a fact because the kids tell me to this day, half of them weren't even drinking. They were just trying to do the right thing. They're trying to be sociable, but they got kicked off the team after their second game, and it stunk. And we had to basically, it happened on like a weekend, and it happened like on a Saturday or Friday, and we got the kids kicked off on Monday, and all of a sudden we had to get a whole new team ready to play on Saturday. Wow. We had to put a whole bunch of kids in the field. Fortunately, we had a pretty good sophomore class, and a lot of these kids had to play. But I remember with Kevin Campbell, who was our defense coordinator, Coach Wolf, we got, I think it might have been, as far as the 12 positions on offense and defense, we might have had to get like 12 or 13 kids ready to play in those positions. And we stayed late. We did this. We worked on the board, and we were going in to play Lacey, who was a good football team. They were good. They were better than us. And we went into this game like, what is going to happen? And first play of the game, our big kid, this kid Wayne Niedermeyer, who coaches for me now, for some reason we had him on kickoff team. He was like 6 foot, 270 pounds. He was on kickoff.
But he's a tank.
I think it was kickoff. And he runs down and he knocks out their best player. First play of the game. Whoa! It was like it just snowballed from there. All of a sudden, this happens. And our one real good player, this kid Jimmy Lakoviak, had a great game. And we wind up winning 20-0. And I remember after the game, we were having a few brown sodas after the game, as they're called. And me and Kevin were sitting there going, what the heck just happened? And I was like, this is the best I've ever felt as anybody. He's like, I feel the same way. We just talked about it, how we had these kids, and how did we get this team ready to play? That was one of the best I've ever had. Another one was Allentown the next year after we lost to them in the state finals. We went to them, and we were playing, I believe it might have been the first or second round of the playoffs, and we had to go there and play them. And they didn't have the same team, they graduation and stuff, but we were going there. It was probably like, I think it was 5 degrees below zero or something. It was freezing. And our kids were just like so motivated. They were just ready to go. And they came out there and we just took it to them. And, as a coach, we just pounded them like they pounded us. And it was like very fulfilling. Like, okay, we got a little bit of revenge. Yeah. We didn't it's a playoff game. Yeah. But it was good. It was good. That was a good, it gave us a little something. And then for us, playing Brick Memorial, that's our big rival. And we've been playing them this year we're not, unfortunately, but we've been playing them first game a lot. And it's always been a great rivalry. And, I think there was a year, we, a couple times that they had our number. They were going to beat us this time. And I was hearing stuff that they were going to win. And we've kind of, fortunately for us, I haven't, as a head coach, I haven't lost to them. And we've been very fortunate to have great kids that are motivated by winning that first game against them. And, we've had some close ones that have gone down to the wire. And it's a great rivalry. It's just one of the best things. And it's just, I wish every team in in sports can have something like this like we have with them. It's a friendly rivalry. It's, it gets a little nasty. Kids are going to be kids, but on the field is really, I don't know if we've had a 15-yard penalty on the field. It just doesn't happen. The kids go at it, and after the game, they're all friends. They talk to each other, here and there. Some of the kids hang out with each other, but for that 48 minutes, it's a battle, and these kids let it all out. And every year, it's just when you beat them, it's fun to have that victory, and those kids enjoy it.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
Anything else, guys?
I think team sports is very important for the youth. I think if you have kids, you got to put them into something nowadays to get them away from the devices, and more and more now kids are like not being social. And I think the key to team sports, the three things that I'm pulling out from you just talking is accountability. Number one, that seems paramount. Community is very important, and I think that shows the kids how to step outside of the football field and not be part of just the game and be part of the community. And then culture. Like, culture is huge, and that seems like it trickled down from Coach Wolf. And it's still there. It's still solid. Yeah, and the communication of the expectations to the kids, like, they know what they're walking into. I mean, it's a storied history over at Old Brick. So it's pretty.
Like Tom said about the you're a Brick, you're expected to win.
Yeah.
I still remember, and I still get talked to by some guys in media. He said something his senior year. He was the varsity club president, right? Your senior year, he was, Tom had a lot of success in sports, and it's why he is the person he is today. But he said something in the paper once, and people to this day still bring it up to me. And he said, Brick is that Notre Dame of high school football. He said it, and people still say to this day that they remember him saying that. And it's just like, again, like either you love it or you hate it. It's kind of like what you're saying with that, and it's true.
It is true.
It's just the way it is with us.
We definitely didn't like Old Brick. Yeah,
my wife graduated from South, so there you go. My wife, and when we started dating, we were going back and forth with South Brick things. It was kind of funny, But again, one thing for us, I'm going to add one thing. Growing up in our house, we were very fortunate. We had, between all of us, we're basically all 6 years apart. Like this, and then into this year, I'm going to be 49, Danielle will be 47, Steph will be 45, Tom will be 43. We're all real close. And one thing that I can say is my father worked a lot of hours. My mom was home with us a lot of the time. But every one of us, we can say we're all successful in our own right. College graduates. I don't know for sure in every one of us, but I know for me, drugs and stuff, I drank a little alcohol in high school, college, but I don't think any one of us has ever gotten involved with drugs, fortunately for us. And all of us are successful with our families and stuff, our careers. And why? Our parents pushed us into sports. They made us accountable. And I still remember to this day, and I even tell, I did it for my son to make him motivated by doing stuff and earning a car when he became eligible to drive. Like, we had cars, again, we bought our cars. Parents would help you. I'll give you this if you do that. And then, like, I remember my dad saying, if you're playing a sport, I'll pay your insurance. And if you're not, you're going to pay it. Okay, so might as well stay playing sports so you don't have to pay my bill. So, that's something that I think was good for our family. And I try to tell parents all the time, like, give your kids motivation and tell them if they stay with sports, if you have the means, support them with buying them. Listen, I had a $500 car. You don't have to have an expensive car. You have something that you can drive, you can get you to here to there. And if you got to work a little bit, fine, but don't ever quit sports because you want to play, you want to get a job and get a nice car. That's, I tell kids, is the worst thing in the world. Don't be in a rush to have bills. And that's one thing I help parents, if anybody listens as a parent, make your kid, let them enjoy being a kid. Let them not have bills stacking up in high school, because the insurance that these kids get, and if you get a nice car, you got to work just to pay for the car. Yeah. So enjoy high school sports, and people probably be mad, but I wish they would raise the driving age sometimes to 18.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This way high school kids don't have to worry about these things.
Right. Yeah,
Let them be kids. You really, it'd be like blasphemy to do it now. But
I know.
I just wish the kids wouldn't be faced with, I got to quit because I got to pay for my car. Every time I hear that, I'm like, all right, so you want to fast forward to 35 years old and be regretting that you never did this?
Yeah.
Nothing more painful than regret if you want to do it. So that's one thing I wish parents would do for their kids.
Well, I think back to what you said. Sports, it's a microcosm of life, and you don't realize it until you're out of it.
Absolutely.
And you think about everything that happened in football or baseball or whatever. And now you come back to life now. It's like, well, working with people, working with team, the social aspect of it all, and having to take a back seat sometimes or take the lead sometimes. So, yeah, I think sports is unfortunately being underplayed sometimes, especially football. But I think it's an amazing sport that you really need to consider for the life challenges after, and then what it prepares you for. So,
the team aspect and everything, and it's just great for the kids. I think it's again, it's under attack a lot of times, and the safety, and you always got to worry about the safety with head injuries and stuff. And that's something as a coach, I tell kids, I'll tell you to suck anything up. If your leg is falling off, I'm going to tell you to suck it up. But if you got a head injury, you got to tell me right away. Yeah. And I tell the kid, they know that. I don't care about anything else. I don't want to hear it until the trainer says you're off the field. But if your head hurts from doing something, I'm yanking you out of the game. I don't care what the score is. I don't care what's happening, because there's so much science that proves that it's not good for the kids of having that second impact and stuff like that. So we have done so much to try to take the kids' heads out of the game. And it's just a matter of coaches are so much more educated now. And we do drills for that reason, because for us, if a kid gets a concussion, he's out of the game. So we're not as good as a coach if one of our best players is not playing. So it's just for your own sake to do it the right way,
Very cool.
Yeah, man. I can't say enough, but I respect you, man, for being a leader for these kids. You're changing lives, and they, like you said, they're calling you back years later, and the impact you've made on them. Yeah. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Yep. We love you for it.
We will.
Yeah, bro. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you having you on the show, coming in today.
Great.
And
it's been really fun to do it.
Yeah. If anybody wants to check out some past episodes, you can find us on YouTube and Instagram, and obviously on Facebook. So,
alrighty.
All right, guys.
Good.
Signing
Thanks
off.
again, man.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Finding Success Show. Make sure to subscribe for future episodes. Also, check us out at Finding Success TV.